All right, we are here at the San Francisco International Book Fair. It's February 16th, 2013. And we now have John Spencer, who is going to be our next interview. John has a wonderful bookshop in Owego called
Riverow Bookshop.
Riverow Bookshop. So, John, to get started, we need some sort of a biographical sketch of you. Talk a little bit about your parents, your siblings, where you went to school. Did you go to college? What were your work? Where did you work? Talk about yourself until you became a bookseller.
Well, I lived in Vestal, New York, and I went to that school system and Broome Community College and then Binghamton University. When I finished that, I joined the Peace Corps, and I went to India and spent 2 years there, and I fell in love with India. Over there, I get a lot of respect.
Not like here.
Not like here. And then I became a registered representative on Wall Street, a broker type, and I went down in the crash of '70, and so did the firm I worked for. And then I had a potato chip franchise, 3 counties with route men and deliveries, and then Hurricane Agnes wiped out the potato crop, and the cooking oil tripled and quadrupled, and so I got out of that business. And then I started doing my own family genealogy, and that's when I led to books. I started buying maps and histories, and pretty soon my wife threw me out of the house, and I had to open up a bookstore.
That's usually what happens. When did you open your shop?
1976.
Has it always been in the same location?
No. In 1984, I purchased a building across the street, and
The yellow building?
yellow building in 1984. We had to paint it yellow. That caused a stir, and then we've been in that building ever since.
Wow. Do you have any siblings?
Yes, I have a daughter who works with me in the book business, and then I have a son who's going to be graduating from med school next May.
Hopefully you'll become a rich doctor and support you in your old age, which is
Take
probably
care of
right
me.
now.
Yeah, take care of me.
Please take care of me. Okay, let's ask some other questions. I get a little bit of a background check on you. What attracted you to the book business?
Well, doing my genealogy and buying books and histories, then we made a trip to Williamsburg, Virginia, where I went into the book press shop and John Curtis's shop, and wow, that was exciting and interesting. And I also sent $2 to Kenneth Nebenzahl to get his catalogs, and so I started reading those catalogs, and it turns out all these years he's never cashed a $2 check.
Really?
And I asked him one day about that. He says, "I got to check into that, you know." And so that started it, and then pretty soon I had Rocky Gardner visiting me, and Matthew Needle, and then Roger Butterfield. I started being a scout, and I would scout books for Roger Butterfield. Was the main, that I'd hand him a book and he'd quote, a famous quote from the author, and it was like,
He was an amazing guy, wasn't he?
yeah, wow, that was impressive.
He and Rocky Gardner were two amazing guys.
Walking encyclopedias. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely encyclopedias. Who were some of the people who you would consider like mentors or had an influence on you as a bookseller?
Well, that would be Roger Butterfield and Rocky Gardner, and then Ed, excuse me, I guess I forgot one of my mentors.
It's all right. Where's he come from?
Well, he was an ABA member from New Jersey who did New York State catalogs. Anyway, I'll think of it.
You'll think of it.
And then people like Craig Ross and Sam Murray,
It's another sweetheart.
who would come by, and so I had those type of mentors.
Well, you got some really good ones.
Yeah.
Really good guys. Okay. Are you an internet guy?
Yes.
What percentage of your business do you think you do on the internet?
Oh, it may be 40%.
That much, huh?
Yeah.
And what percentage out of the store?
The rest, I mean, I hardly do any shows. I mean,
I know.
You know,
I'm so surprised to see you out here.
yeah, that's why I figured I'd come to you, because I hardly ever do a show anymore.
Yeah.
I do some small regional shows, but most of it's the bookstore open shop, and I have not as many people coming through as there used to be, but they're still there, and I've become known as a destination.
Well, I always visit you when I'm in your area. It just hasn't been that much lately, but certainly I would always go back. You've got so much stuff in so many different categories. It's a great place to go and just browse, if you allow browsing.
I do.
Do you encourage it?
But yes, but as long as they put the book back in the same
Same
spot,
place.
so you can find it, you know.
Yeah, forget about that.
My staff is always, you know, complaining that somebody moved a book and they can't find it. So
How many people besides your daughter do you have working for you?
just one other.
Just one other.
Yeah.
Okay. Was the computer world a difficult or an easy transition for you?
Easy. I've been on it a long time.
Since when? Do you remember?
Well, when Weatherford started,
Interlock?
I was already on it. I had a computer early on, around 1980 I had a computer. So I've been leading the way. Back then I was one of the few that were into it.
Yeah.
And so I've been at it ever since, and I have someone who's computer knowledgeable that helps me.
That's I do too. It's very, very important to have somebody like that, because I don't know about you, but I am a bookseller who uses a computer, not a computer guy who sells books.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a huge difference.
Right.
Okay. What do you see as some of the great challenges that we face as antiquarian booksellers into the future?
Well, I'm trying to make sure my daughter has a business to go continue with. And I think the pendulum is going to swing back through. At my level, I supply other dealers with books. I've never met a customer yet. And, but we order books for customers online, and, for a while there you could buy books for 99 cents. I think that's going to go by the wayside.
Yeah.
Because those books are garbage. You order them in and they're in dreadful condition.
Yeah, you have to throw them away.
They have to throw them away.
It's too much money to send them back.
Yeah. And so I'm starting to sell more books at, $10 and up is my minimum. And nowadays I'm having to raise prices. My staff, he'll go online and say, well, look, we need to increase prices. So I'm doing that a lot more. I would say 2 or 3 times a week I have to raise my prices.
Wow.
So I think the pendulum's coming back through. The people will still like good books, and because I'm able to own the building, we can afford to not pay me rent in my old age.
Yeah. There's something to be said about owning your own building.
Yeah.
Always will be. What are some of your recollections of your early days as a bookseller? Any particular story or tale that stands out in your mind?
No, it was just the growly Rocky Gardner coming through and said, well, I'll take all of this. And it caught me off guard because, I was ready to sell him 1 or 2 at a price. And he took it all, and I thought, that's just strange. I gotta do something different. But he did that. And then when I went to visit him, he'd say, well, you have $10,000 line of credit, just go shopping in my
great.
stock.
He was a great guy.
So that was nice, and I bought material for my first catalog, and so that's one story. At the moment,
That's okay.
Yeah, it's all been hard work ever since.
Yeah, it's nothing but hard work. Okay. Since the advent of the internet, lots of things have changed in the book business. What do you think are some of the important changes?
Well, you're able to find out, research names, people, background to write blurbs about items, if you can believe, what you're reading. And
Wikipedia.
Yeah, so I mean that's an advantage, and we use that a lot. as far as inventory goes, you can put stuff online, but it's better to hold. I don't put everything online anymore. It's better to have something back. You can get people. We need to have people start traveling to find something in my store that's not
as
available.
opposed to looking on the internet
Right.
and calling you up or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems to be one of the big dilemmas. So many bookstores are closing, or people are dying, or they decided that they would rather work in their pajamas in front of their computer than do anything else.
Well, having an opening shop, one of the rare ones, is nice. People bring books
I was going to ask you
all the
that.
time. Yeah.
Do you have much of a flow of stock coming in your front door?
I do, but it's not the rare things like, that would occur. And I live out in the hinterlands, and so I never had a lot of depth in the 19th century, and so I don't get the really rare things that would come, say, in the bigger cities or on like this.
I would think that your area is an old enough area where there should be material coming out, but maybe it's all come out already.
Well, there's been a bookseller in Owego for about 75, 80 years. I know the earlier one had a couple of Books of Mormon go through, and but that was all. He died in time, and I didn't get anything. Nothing new come through.
Nothing new came through?
Yeah.
Okay. We talked about challenges. If you were entering the book trade today, would you? Or how would you do it if you did?
I certainly love books, so I would just be very selective. And now you need to buy the best book you can with all the money you have, and not buy 100 books that are cheap.
Yeah, one book is.
Yeah,
It's a cartoon in New York showing a bookshop, and you look in on the shelf. There's one book, just one.
Yeah. So, but because I'm a bottom feeder to the organization.
You're a dealer's dealer.
I'm a dealer's dealer, and I just get a lot of reasonable books, and there's always a market for that. That's why I don't do shows, is because I don't have the high-flying material that required.
If you did, it would be gone
Right.
from dealers coming through. Although, it would seem to me that the amount of scouts that are out there are so far fewer than there used to be. It's minuscule, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
It's a rarity to find a bookseller traveling around looking for books these days.
That's right. We drove across to this show, and there wasn't anything to buy.
Really?
In the shops that we stopped.
How long did it take you to get here?
4 days. 4.5 days, 4 days.
And you couldn't buy anything along the way?
Well, we didn't stop too many places, but there
No.
was nothing to buy.
That's Doug Harding usually likes to.
He beat us to it, I guess.
Oh, he did?
He came out a month earlier.
Yeah, he likes it out here. I can't say as I blame him. Okay. Do you have any remembrances of a major find you might have made as a bookseller, or a major disappointment that you had as a bookseller?
I haven't had any major finds. That's why I'm in trouble.
Well, have you had any disappointments?
Yeah.
Like buying a great book and finding out it's defective? Or...
No, I do that a lot. Even though you think you're smarter, I still continue. My problem is I'm addicted to books, and I keep buying.
Yeah.
And
That could be a problem.
And my staff is trying to shut me down. Quit buying books. We've got to sell what we have.
Well, it's always a good philosophy.
But I can't think of anything that I missed at the moment or didn't buy. Sorry.
Do you have, even in this day, do you have booksellers coming through?
Very few.
Very few.
Yeah.
How would you contrast it with, let's say, 10 years ago?
Well, there used to be probably one a week 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and now it's one every 2 months.
Really?
Really nothing,
And that's probably mainly because of the internet, wouldn't you think?
Yes. They think what you have is all available and exposed to the world. That's why you have to keep things in a reserve and back. and
Yeah,
not.
I learned that many years ago when I went into a bookshop in Erie, Pennsylvania, and I was about to leave disappointed that I didn't see anything. I just happened to say, "Do you have your internet books someplace different?" He said, "Oh yeah, I do." He took me through this back room, and there all of his best books were there on the shelves. And I learned from that point on that every time I go into a bookshop, I now ask, "Do you have your internet books someplace else?"
Yeah.
Because a lot of people squirrel them away.
Hmm.
Do you squirrel them away?
I squirrel away the ones that are not on the internet,
Okay.
but not a great deal. But I have 28,000 on the internet,
That's a lot.
and so then and I also bring fresh stock to a book fair. I don't bring anything if I went to the work to catalog it, my staff, and they file it, I don't want to take that back out of it, because
Yeah.
it's got to go back when you go home. So I always have fresh stock, and that's not on the internet. And that's why I don't do so many shows, because I don't drag the same book to different
Right,
shows.
Right, and rightly so. That's one of the complaints you usually hear. Oh, he's got the same books he had at this fair, or the same books he had at that fair.
Right.
That's not you.
That's right.
Okay, I got one last question for you before I let you go. If a young person were to come to you and say, "Mr. Spencer, I'd like to become a bookseller. What's the most important thing I need to do?"
Go to Rare Book School and find some money to start with. No, you just should go with your interests first. Buy books that you like to. If you can't sell, you can read and learn more. Would be a way to start, and start slowly, and just develop what turns you on. Fields. I'm a big mushroom hunter, so I'm carrying more books on mushrooms myself, even at this advanced age.
Yeah.
And so
Mushrooms
it's
and
interesting, and I've brought a lot of books from India I've been collecting over the years. And so these are things that I always loved, and I don't mind owning it if I don't sell it.
Well, it's great to talk to you again, John. Thanks very much for coming by.
I do have one story, Elvis.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
When I was in the Peace Corps in India, I was stationed in a village that had a king's palace, and they had sort of left town, and in there was all these rare bookcases, or bookcases with curtains. Like from here to the window, you couldn't see them, but they were like big game hunting, and But this was before I was in the business.
Oh, right. This was Peace Corps
And
time.
then I went back in India about 3 years after I got out, and the whole palace was for sale for like $10,000.
Oh, God.
I didn't buy it. I didn't as a young kid. And then in the '90s, the palace was kind of sold, and the books were shredded. I could have bought the palace, sold the books, knowing that I could have been a king.
Yeah, you could have had your own your own palace.
Yeah.
And every time you went to India, you could hang out at your palace.
Yeah. So that was a book story that I missed.
Well, it's a good one, though. Well, thanks a lot for participating in the program, John.
Okay.